What's going on, guys? I am Anthony, and I'm so excited to host the first ever podcast episode for Legacy Ledger. And I have a very important guest today, a very special guest. And I'd like to introduce to you my beautiful fiance, Tiffany Ortiz. And I really wanted to just have her hop on the first episode because we are going to be talking a lot about legacy. We are going to be talking a lot about money. Money management, the story and relationship with money. That's really the goal here, to just really share the stories, share the experience, share everyone's professions, and really just be able to resonate with everybody who's watching this. So I'm so excited. I am honored for my soon-to-be wife who's here. And say hi to everybody, babe.
Hi, guys. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here. I'm honored, first of all, to be the first person here on your podcast. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it took a little convincing.
It
But
did.
I think it's everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to invite a lot of other guests on here, but really God spoke to me, and He's like, you should invite your fiance, your partner in life.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be great because we have a lot of money conversations on a daily basis, and this is something that we're constantly planning for, and I'm sure a lot of other people are in that process as well, and maybe they can receive some sort of value from what we got to share based on our experiences individually and in this relationship that we're building.
Yeah, I agree.
So, so the first thing I really want to talk about, and I'm just going to kind of put you on the spot for a little bit, and I really want to talk about your background and your upbringing, and growing up. I want to know what shaped you with money. Like, what was something that you grew up watching that really allowed you to really see how money works?
It was more, I would say, for like my family, seeing my parents the way that they brought money about in our life. So it was more that we lived more paycheck to paycheck growing up. It wasn't really, we had an abundance of anything. So just seeing what they had and what they couldn't do kind of shaped me and my perspective and my mindset and the money growing up. And as I grew older, I feel like it more kind of transitioned to a different type of mindset, depending on the environment I was in, depending on the people I was around. So it's kind of shifted from what I believed when I was younger.
Yeah, and tell everybody where you're from originally.
I am from the Bronx, New York, Boogie Down Bronx.
Okay, you're a body from the Bronx.
Buddy
I
from
love
the
it.
Bronx, J-Lo.
I know how to choose them for sure. I like them a little spicy.
That's right, some spice.
So you mentioned your family. Would you say that they were your biggest impact on being able to build those habits with your actual money now that you're an adult now, or even growing up as a teenager? Do you feel like they had an influence, or do you feel like you were doing it more on a self-taught basis, and you just kind of were figuring it out on your own?
For me, it was more on like experience. So just learning on my own. I mean, like my parents only knew what they knew. So it wasn't a matter of what they taught me. So it's just a matter of just trial and error in my life and just figuring it out along the way, really.
And what would you say is something like that you wish you were taught earlier? Like, I know that there's always one thing, and I know you said that your parents were figuring it out. They were able to provide for you the best they could. What's one thing you felt like growing up you wish you had learned sooner?
I would say that money is more of just a tool and not be based off it showing or identifying who you are. I feel like where we grew up for the most part was like based off how much you had is who you were, your value that people saw you in. And we grew up in the Bronx. We didn't grow up in the nicer places. So it's like, damn, we don't really have money. And it's like more of an identity thing that I struggled with. So I feel like I wish I knew it was just more of a tool for us to use. And it really wasn't who we were based off how much we had.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that for sure. Growing up in Queens, my parents did the best they could to try to raise and provide. And, we have that in common. We wish we were taught a lot of these things at a very early age, where we can start utilizing these things at a much earlier age. Now that we're in this position now, we're forever grateful for everything that we've learned along the process. And, I think that's part of the journey. And I know we're not the only ones that that have gone through that experience, especially growing up in a Hispanic household. That's something that, our parents did the best they could to raise us and to guide us the best way possible. So, definitely what you mentioned there, that money is a tool. That's something that I'm able to teach every single day to people. It's being able to move your money and use your money and control your money. Don't let money control you.
Yeah.
Because lots of people, as you know, they let the money control them. They let the money consume them. At that point, the money's using you. You're not using the money. So using money as a tool to be able to build sustainability, to build growth, and to build that legacy for you and our family, like that's the key right there.
I think it's really good you said that money, not to have let money have control over you. And I feel like for the way I was growing up and my perspective, I let it control me. It's just like I was always so holding on to the money in my bank accounts. Like I didn't want it to go out. I didn't want to spend this. I didn't want to spend that because I just had so much control over this. And it's just like it led me to nowhere, So now just letting go of that control and being more aware and just being open and willing and having the faith, it's like a big difference and a big transition for like my lifestyle before to my lifestyle where I'm at now.
Yeah. And on that topic, I want to ask you, what was your biggest mistake that you think that you made with money in your life? Like what was one of your biggest mistakes that you've made?
So I would say one of my biggest mistakes, I mean, I've never been the risk taker. I know like that's super big between both of us because I've been more like the stability one and you've been more like the risk taker in our relationship. So I think I would say maybe keeping all my eggs in one basket. It's like not willing to, or not even not willing, but not even having the education in where to invest and how to have my money work for me or how to put in different streams. So I think if I can go back, I would wish that I had like that education that I can kind of know how to invest my money and where and what to do with it, as opposed to just keeping it in a savings and just letting it grow, but not having any purpose for it,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And I'm glad that you even mentioned that because there are a lot of people out there that are leaving their money either in their savings account where they're actually not making money off of those accounts, right? They're not aware of how the value of their money is not catching up with inflation. And that's something that they're just not educated on. And that, we can't blame them for them doing that or for the people who, I'm sure your parents and I know my parents did, they put money under the mattress.
No, we ain't got no money to put under the mattress.
Or whatever money we had, or our parents had, they put it under the mattress along with other important documents. Like if you need the social security card or passport, we'll put the mattress over our heads to just keep the mattress up, and we're out here just grabbing things, and a lot of important things are just stored that way, and that's just really the old way of doing things, and really being able to expose yourself to the possibilities and the resources and tools that the wealthy people are doing, that they're taking advantage of to grow their wealth, to leave that legacy for their families. Like that's something that we're working on heavily, and especially me being in the finance field for as long as I have been. That's something that we constantly have a conversation on. So would you agree?
I do agree. Yeah, I think if it wasn't for you, I'd still be kind of lost on like how to manage my money or like what to do or the risk to take for it, because it's like I didn't know that type of world. I was in the healthcare world, so having like a partner that's into the financial world, I'm like, yes, I got a up one on everybody. It's like I have you that helps me and guide me on that, and it's just for our family, for our future, and it's just like the future looks so bright, and it's just gives me the peace of mind knowing that.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned the industry that you're in. You're in the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about, let people know what is it that you currently do for a living.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a registered nurse. I do work in the Bronx right now, and I also do work here in Miami as an IV mobile nurse, and I also do some content creation on the side. So it's just a matter of being like employed and independent contractor, doing both right now.
So you are a hustler. You are a grinder.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I love about you. You truly are a hardworking woman, a very independent woman, someone who's very goal oriented. And, that's one of the things that inspires me in regards to, if I never even never ever told you that, or maybe I don't tell you that enough. I just wanted to tell it on this episode for sure, that you're an inspiration to not only me, but I'm sure to many women, Hispanic women especially, coming out of the Bronx, being able to accomplish everything you've been able to accomplish in your life. So pat on the shoulder for that. So what would you say for nurses in particular, right? Because that's been your bread and butter for the most part, and you've been doing it the longest. What would you say is one of the biggest financial challenges that nurses face?
I would say it's more of just like burnout for nurses. Even, I mean, I experienced it myself. It's that we work all this overtime to try to fund this lifestyle that we've created until the point that we get burnt out. And it's just we're spending all this money on this lifestyle, but we don't even have this long-term goal plan. And it's just a lot of us, you know, that's the way we operate in that field.
So, no, I agree. I think, you know, I've personally experienced a little bit of that for the time that we've been together, on how many hours are being put in. You know, definitely shout out to all the nurses out there. They work long hours, they grind it out, they are dealing with stress, and it's not easy on top of that. But we also know that career is a very rewarding one if you are putting in the extra hours. And you know, that's why, because the way your guys' schedule, maybe explain a little bit more about like how the typical registered nurse schedule looks, and why is it what are the pros of that, or what are the cons of that?
So it's more of like 12-hour shifts. So we do 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts. A lot of people are like, oh, you have 4 days off. The pro is that it is 3 days, but the con is that those 4 days are not necessarily 4 days. So we have the time to recover. If you're working overnights, that first day is off. So it does have its pros and cons, but I would say it's more of just 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts back to back usually, or you can do it spread out.
So what would you say is one of the pros to that structure?
That you have more flexibility in the things that you want to do. It's not really like a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type of vibe thing.
Okay. And one of the cons?
That it's long hours. It's long hours, and you're putting in a lot of work in those hours.
No, I definitely see that. And that's why much respect. Like I said, I cannot stress that enough. Much respect to nurses who are on that grind. It's not easy being able to go there. Yeah. They're definitely undercompensated, even though you guys are compensated well. I still believe that there's more for you guys to be compensated, especially in specific states, you know, like Florida, in my opinion, because you know, that's why you're still working in the Bronx, because of that significant gap in income, right? And it's a blessing to God that you're able to keep that job in New York at one of the best hospitals, and you're still able to actually do what you do here as an IV nurse, which that's a very, very valuable service that you provide. A very tough job as well. A lot of travel, a lot of risk. So talk to me a little bit more about that transition from a full-time nurse to now you're essentially traveling only for, you know, specific, like for a certain amount of times a year that you travel back to New York. But now you're really focused a lot here in Miami, these last 2 years in particular, since we've been down here, on being an IV nurse. So talk to me a little bit more, how did that transition affect you mentally and financially?
That's good. So working in New York was more like an employee job. So it's more a stability type of job. It was more like that was the foundation of what built my lifestyle. And as opposed to that, now going to IV therapy, it was more of like, now independent contractor, now I have to take these risks. Am I willing to take these risks because the income is not stable? I don't know what I'm making for that month or that week. So it was a big transition, especially like mindset wise. I'm like, okay, am I willing to like take this risk now? Or am I just willing to stay comfortable where I'm at, knowing that I'm going to make this amount, that I can spend this amount? So it was a big, I would say, mental transition. But I feel like just being willing now and seeing the outcome, now that I'm even making more than I was working a full-time nurse in New York, it was like, wow, like I'm willing that I took this risk, you know? It's because I would have never been here had I not taken it. So it's been a big transition, but a big perspective and mindset in itself too.
Yeah, and we've had these conversations a lot in terms of the entrepreneurial mindset, that it's literally a mindset and a lifestyle that one chooses because it's a grind, and really not knowing where the next dollar is going to come from that's the part where like it can give you a lot.
Scary part.
It can give you a lot of anxiety, and I
Yeah.
think that right there is a huge transition in your life. And I feel like God had a plan for us moving down here, and you really, you were relatively successful as a nurse in New York. You were working full time. You were saving a lot of money. You're doing well for yourself. To coming down here and really not knowing what to do, starting from scratch, and that experience and literally seeing it from the outs from literally not the outside in, but literally
You were in it too.
I was in it. I was in it too, and it's definitely a transition that it's not easy. I'm sure you would agree for that, right?
It's not easy at all, especially when you have that mindset that you grew up for so long. I was a nurse for 5.5. Well, I'm still a nurse, but I was a nurse for 5+ years. So having that stability for so long, and then all of a sudden just switching in gears was like, oh wow, like let me pause and let me figure it out. And yeah, I mean, it's been a blessing right now.
Yeah, for sure. And you said that because you took that risk, now you feel like you're making more money than you were just working as a full-time nurse. Yeah. And that's just a perfect example of there's opportunities out there in life, and you're just one decision away from really changing the trajectory of your life. Absolutely. And you would say that all the skills that you learned and the experience that you learned, like, would you say that you're super grateful for that?
I am. I remember telling him, I was like, I don't know if I can do this, or like, I don't know like how much longer I can do this. But then from not knowing, even just working as content creation, from not even knowing how to use Canva now or CapCut, and it's just like skills like that, or just communication skills, or just personal skills, having conversation with people, working as IV therapy. Like I was not that type of person before, and now just being open and having a bigger personality and just being able to just figure it out along the way has been a big thing that's changed from before.
No, for sure. And I know you mentioned you do content creation, and guys, so she is one of the best content creators out there. She is hired by multiple companies to shoot these videos. So if you're looking for somebody who's a hard worker and is passionate about what she does, you got your woman right here. So what do you like about creating content for brands? Like what inspires you every single day to do that?
Just the creativity, I think it is. For me, it's just the creativity and the opportunities. Like the opportunities are endless, whether it's just in like makeup or clothing or whatever it is. It's just the creativity to be able to be in that field. I feel like I've grown into a person that I like to be creative. I like to do different things. I like to create. I like to imagine, envision things. So I think that's the most, I guess, more of the fun part for me in a sense for that.
Yeah, and I would say you are very big on attention to details.
Yes.
Just like you are in our home, everything being exactly where it's supposed to be. If it's angled too much, you already know that you already know Anthony touched it or somebody touched it.
Yes,
that
I know somebody's been there.
Or it's like you said, I left. What is it that you say when I leave? I left my tracks.
You left your track. Like you'll leave the door, you'll leave the chair out, and the cup here, and then your slipper here. I was like, I know where you've been and where you walked before you sat down.
I leave my trail, and it's definitely that right there. I've gotten a lot better.
Yes,
in that, and really being able to make that adjustment. Yeah. This is what you do in a relationship. So if you guys are in a relationship, this is the sacrifice that you have to do for your spouse. I'll tell you this much.
This is the expectation.
Expectation or standard. I don't like the word expectation. But yeah, we do have expectations in relationships. But before we get into the conversation about our relationship and marriage and how that changed the mindset regarding money, I want to learn a little bit more about your daily habits. So something as simple as how often do you actually check your finances?
It depends on a good day or not a good day. I would say it's more like weekly, and it's not because of like the fear of what's in my account like it was before. That's why I was checking so constantly, but I think it's more of just being aware of what's in my account.
Okay, so what would you say is a money habit that you're proud of?
I would say one of my money habits that I'm proud of is looking for the sales and the clearance. I'm a sales and clearance girly.
I knew that was coming. You are a bargain shopper.
Yes.
You know how to shop at Marshall's, TJ Maxx, Ross for Dress for Less.
Yes.
All these places where I refuse to be in those stores. I don't know. Like, I know I'm not the only guy here that just dreads going into those stores, but you definitely are a good spender.
Yeah.
You would say?
I would say I'm a good spender. It's just I'm smart with my money. I've learned to be, not even along the way, I would say I've learned to be smart with my money.
Yeah. So would you say, do you budget or do you have like some sort of system?
Honestly, I don't budget. I don't have like, hey, I'm going to spend $200 in this month or whatever, which I probably should. It's like I've tried, but I think I'm more of, hey, I know I've spent already this much, so let me not spend any more if I don't need it right now. And for majority of the time, I'm looking at, like I said, the sales and the clearance and the bargain things. So I feel like doing that instead of just looking for, hey, I'm willing to spend $500 for this right now, makes a big difference in how I budget my money.
So what would you say is the most expensive thing that you bought yourself?
I would just actually like these Prada black glasses that I have that I make sure I wear as much as I can to get the value of it. I think it's something like that. Like, yeah, I have these expensive things, but I even got them at a bargain or they were gifted or, yeah, I think the Prada ones are my most expensive things that I've ever bought myself.
So you would say that a lot of money mistakes that a lot of people make is when they start making some sort of money, they just start spending on all these fancy objects.
Yes, I feel like a lot. For me, I'm the type of person, if I like a shirt, whether it's $500 or, $500, it was more like $5 or $50, if I really like it, I'm going to get it. You know, it's not more about the price tag. It's not, oh, because it's $100, let me get it because it looks good. Because I have $10 shirts that look just as good. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of like being smart with it. It's like just because you have the money doesn't mean you have to spend it on that right now expensive. That's why I feel like so many people who are wealthy still feel like they're broke.
Yeah. I can definitely vouch for that. You know, I deal with a lot of people who are in that position where they are making a lot of money, but they still tell me, Anthony, like, why do I feel like I'm not in that position to scale and grow? Like, why do I feel like I got nothing left over? And that's just all money management and structure that I help them and I guide them through now. And it's just all about really, first off, building those right money habits. And then from there, we start really going in and diving deep into the finances to make sure you're set up. So let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about our relationship. Let's talk about the mindset and the conversations that now, coming from being single or not in a serious relationship like we're in now, what would you say what was one of the biggest transitions in conversations regarding money now in our relationship as we're literally about to step into marriage?
I would say it's just being willing to do things as a unit together. I mean, for so long I was just more independent on my own finances. It was like, my money's my money. Like I always tell you, your money is my money.
You hear that, guys? Yeah. Okay, this is the saying that everybody says, right? My money is her money, and her money is her money.
Yes.
So that saying is definitely true, but no, babe.
No, we're just kidding.
Yeah.
But I think it's just being willing to just unite in our finances, being clear in communication, being honest in our finances, and just being, like I said, willing to put it as a whole and operating as a whole instead of just my money's my money, your money's your money.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because one of the biggest reasons for divorce is money, right? Is finances, is lack of communication, is lack of transparency, is just not really being on the same page with that. And it's very, very important as married couples to understand that it's much easier to navigate and plan for your finances when you're actually doing it together. And that leads to that will lead to my next question, which is, do you believe in joint bank accounts, or do you just believe in solely just having your own personal account? You're a free bird at that point.
Why do you have a smirk?
in a particular in this particular relationship and in general.
I think it is important. I think that for me personally, I had the mindset before, like, no, like I want to keep separate accounts. It's like, oh no, I don't know if I trust this person, or I don't know if I'm going to trust this other person to be in a joint account. But I think now with the mindset and the way we've grown and the way that we are with our money, I think it is important for us to have a joint account in itself. And then if you want to have like a side account for like your little spending, your nail day, your hair day, I feel like you should be, giving that. But I'll keep the little spending on the side. But I think, we should have one together. And then if you want like a side spending one.
No, no, for sure. Definitely structuring accounts is very important. And I like to always talk about this part is really being able to give your money a job, right? Being able to specifically put money into specific accounts that are going to completely separate, each particular responsibility, because the moment you start commingling funds and putting everything into one simple account, that's a recipe for a disaster. That's a recipe for inconsistency and improper planning, and you're just going to be saving by decision and not by default. You
That's
are
good.
putting yourself in harm's way if you want to achieve certain success in your finances, or you have a certain savings goal for, let's say, you want to buy a property, or you're not putting yourself in that position. So I'm glad that you mentioned the having a personal fund bucket, because that I believe, even from my perspective, it is important to have. If you have the means to do that, you allocate that money into those specific accounts that are going to allow you to be like, okay, if I have $1,000 this month for my fund money, you already know that's the sole purpose of it.
Yes.
But make sure that you are saving, right? You're paying yourself first. You're tithing. You're doing all these things that are more of a priority to your financial picture before doing any of those things. So, I think it's very important, right? So when we talk about finances and marriage, what do you think is one of the most important topics of discussion when we are having a conversation regarding finances? Was one of the most important topics?
I would say more like debt wise, like where we stand debt wise. Just being open and honest between that, because I feel like a lot of people go into this, and obviously debt with you can bring a baggage into a marriage if you guys are not speaking about that before.
Yeah, I agree, right? And when you're entering any relationship, you want to be fully transparent with where you're at financially. And, we understand people make mistakes, and your past troubles got you into a particular a situation where now you're stuck in debt. But the sole purpose of communicating with your spouse, and I'm sure you know, because we've communicated this amongst you and I, is really being able to be like, yo, if you communicate, if you put it out there, God is gonna put His hands on it, and He's gonna bless it, right? Regardless of His debt, He's gonna allow you to get. He's gonna put you in a position to pay off that debt, and it's always better to be able to do that with a partner who is on the same page as you and who really wants to succeed with you, not just when it's convenient or any of those things. So I think that right there, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of fellas out there who just like to hide their finances and do all these things and think that they're just, they're making all this money, but they have all this baggage that's creeping up on them, and it's not fair to the spouse that you plan on spending the rest of your life with to just inherit that without her even knowing prior. And it's just more communication. It is the biggest thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, communication, being aware of it.
Okay. And so on the topic of management of money, okay, have you ever worked with a professional or a financial advisor or attorney? Like, is that something that you believe in?
You.
I asked this question on purpose, guys, just to test her response on that. So elaborate on that.
So for me, I manage for my money, but having that access and the resource of you, it's made it much easier. And it's because I'm able to do that because you've educated me in things, So it's like what I didn't know before, I know now, and I'm smarter with it because of it. So I think it is really important to have somebody on the side, whether it's somebody you're working with or somebody just going for like advice or education in that field, because we don't all know it all. Like I said, I grew up more in healthcare as opposed to you grew up in finance. So why wouldn't I come to you if I have that access and resource as a partner or as somebody I know in general, to sit with you and figure that out.
Yeah. And would you say a big part of that is being able to trust I know that I do this as a profession, as a career, but just in general, maybe nobody in the household is in finance. Maybe there's two healthcare workers or one healthcare worker and a marketing guy. So what would you say is important on the roles and responsibilities? So being able to trust your somebody in that household to manage the finances. So what would you say is the person that would actually manage those finances in a household, given the situation, right? Assuming that I am not that finance guy, just talk a little bit more about that and give that perspective.
For me, I think it's more of whoever has that strength in there. So a lot of times people would say, or they paint this picture like, oh, the man should be running the finances, or they should be paying the bills, or this and that. And it's like, maybe that's the woman's strength in the relationship, you know? So it's just finding who has to strengthen that and still working together. It's not like that all lays on that one person, but just still working together, but letting that person who has the strength or the knowledge of it or whatever to lead in that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad that you mentioned the strengths, because there's a lot of times in relationships where people start clashing, right? They want to be controlling every aspect of the relationship, and that ultimately does more harm than good.
Separates
And
them.
being able to understand that we are a team, we're on the same team. And I always like to use the baseball analogy because, you know, I played baseball my entire life, and being able to understand everyone has their positions. And in a relationship is two of us, we're playing many positions in this game of life. And we have to make sure, okay, we're on the same page on who's strength, who's strong in a particular area and who's weak in a particular area. Yeah. And our jobs is to either we pick them up, or we find other people that can come in to the picture, whether it's hiring an advisor, right, or hiring a cleaning person, or whatever your weaknesses are. You come together and agree that it's a team that you want to be able to build here. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that. But you know, you have the honor and privilege to have somebody like me in this profession.
Yes.
I'm not gassing myself up, guys, but you know, I like to brag a little bit when it comes to my baby here. So what would you say is one of the biggest transitions for you in going from single life to marriage life? Like what has been one of the biggest transitions in terms of you as a woman of God, most importantly, that's and surrounding finances in particular?
I would say just having to lose like the sense of, I guess it could come out negative or positive depending how you look at it, but losing the sense of independency on my own or doing it alone, and just being willing. I think this all comes back to just like the willingness to be willing to work with you and partner with you and unite with you to kind of make it whole again. So I think that's one of it for us going from single to married, or single to about to be married. Just being able to unite together and being willing to do that.
I love that. And the willingness is what when you really try to be serious with somebody and really see like, okay, is that person really willing to change?
Yeah.
Right? They're willing to sacrifice. And in a marriage, it's all about sacrifice. And I'm so glad that you even mentioned that, because it's your willingness to be able to figure things out and being able to just make things work by any means necessary. And it can come from you, it can come from me, right? But we both have to be willing to make those adjustments and changes to just fit into the puzzle that God created us to become. All right, we're constantly going to be growing every single day, and understanding that we understand that it's just going to be a constant battle, constant journey, constant tests. Those are things that are what await us, and just really being able to just do that with the partner, most importantly, so especially when you have the finances and you are trying to just do that together. Yes. I think that's ultimately going to allow you to accomplish the things, right? Would you say that?
Good. Yeah.
Would you agree?
That's so good. I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about, or back to the topic in regards to teamwork, having a team. Who would you say is your most important teammate in regards to your finances?
I would say it's your person who's going to hold you accountable, which is your partner. Like in my sense, I think that's the most important person on my team for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, babe. And I appreciate you calling me your most important. If I give you a kiss right now, would
kiss, catch it.
Got it. Gotcha. So you seeing the perspective of obviously me working with other families, and seeing the actual impacts that are being made behind the scenes, would you recommend a financial professional or an advisor or consultant like me to be able to help somebody in their finances? Do you recommend people consider getting on board with somebody like me, or just in general?
I think so, yeah. Before, I was the type of person, like, I wouldn't seek for help in finances. And it's just, I mean, I didn't have people around me, but I'm like, oh, I'll just figure it out. Or, hey, like, I'm doing fine. I still have enough in my account and stuff like that. So I think it's really important now, especially as you get older in life, really. And it's just to prepare yourself and prepare your family. I think it's super important to have those people around you that can help guide you in those sense.
I love that. You heard it, guys. She agrees on having some sort of help. You know, you're not going to be able to do life alone.
Yes.
And you know, I like to say the saying, the enemy loves isolation, so he's going to take advantage of the opportunities where you decide to just keep everything to yourself and just isolate yourself and not seek help, whether it's finances or anything in life. I feel like that's one of the biggest things that you can invest into is seeking the help, and seeking the person or team that's going to be able to help steward your finances correctly, to be able to structure your finances correctly and help you achieve the things that you want to achieve in life, help you accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish in life. Most importantly, do it in the most efficient manner. I think that's very important. Would you say?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So let's as we wrap up, okay. Obviously, this is the first ever episode of Legacy Ledger, and obviously you see a nice tree there. I definitely want to talk a little bit about the meaning behind why I chose this illustration for this particular podcast, and when we talk about legacy and what that means to people, like you really want, that's something that you're gonna leave behind. Mm-hmm. And for me, when I created this illustration here, with the help of AI, I'm not gonna say I created it by scratch because I'm not too creative, right? You know, the tree, it signifies life, and everything that you do in life, it's you're gonna constantly you're gonna be given battles, and you're gonna be battle tested, and you're gonna have scars, you're gonna have lessons that you're gonna be learning. And you know, I think that's why the bandages around the tree, it just shows that maturity, right? It shows that we're not walking on this earth all perfect and shiny, and you know, we are imperfect beings, right? We are people that make mistakes, and we are going to, you know, we're all going to learn from them, right? The roots of that tree is what's going to allow us to stay standing no matter the circumstances, and the fruits that are growing on those branches are the results of all the resilience and hard work. And that's the legacy, right? Whether it's children, whether it's finances, whatever it is that you want to leave a legacy, whether it's you plant a orphanage or church, or that those are all part of your own life tree. And that's why I decided to go this route. And the legacy ledger, it's I feel like God spoke to me, and he told me, like, hey, start this up, start inviting people over. That you can talk more about the word legacy. Like, what do you want to be remembered for, right? What do you want to leave behind? Because it connects so much in what I do personally, right, and professionally, in how I help people steward their finances, because that's what's going to allow them to leave that legacy. Yes. What are they gonna be remembered for when they are no longer on this earth, right? So on that topic of legacy, what does legacy mean to you?
I would say legacy to me would be more of leaving something that can still transition down the line for your families to come. Like for me, for example, a lot of people say the legacy they want to leave is like wealth. And for me, I'm like, all right, you can leave wealth, but where's the wisdom with the wealth? You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to leave my kids with wealth. I want to leave them with tools and principles and value that they can use to obtain that legacy, to keep to obtain that wealth, to keep the wealth. Because it's like wealth without wisdom is not really. I feel like that goes hand in hand with it.
No, I love that. And wealth without wisdom, that's a bar.
Yeah,
I love that. Wealth without wisdom, because you can pass down millions of dollars, and if you don't educate the next generation, that money's gonna go. That money's gonna go right away, and literally everything the previous person worked so hard for to leave behind is for nothing. Yeah. It reminds me of the of the story of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, right? We compared two of the wealthiest families in ever in history, and how one planned better than the other, right? The legacy that one family left over the other family, the difference was education, principles, and those things got passed down from generation to generation, and the wealth constantly kept getting transferred over and over again, as opposed to the other family, right? They completely just ran out of money after, I believe it was the second or third generation after, and I think we're already at the sixth generation since the first Rockefeller came out, it's really crazy how it gives you a whole bunch of perspective on the legacy. And in regards to you being where you're at now in life, do you think that term legacy, that word legacy, do you think it was ever different when you were much younger, or this is something that now that you're stepping into marriage, a serious relationship, we're planning for a lot of things in our lives, and like, do you think that legacy term has changed over the years, would you say?
I think so, for sure. Before growing up, it was more of just, hey, like, I want to have this much money I can give my kids and pass down money. Everything was just more just like about money. And I think now, getting older and just maturing in my faith and my relationship and as a person, I think it's shifted so much. It's more of just like the wisdom and the legacy you want to bring as a family in itself, whether it's just breaking generational curses or strongholds or whatever you have. It's just creating that healthy foundation, and for the next generation, I think it's the most important thing for me, and that's what I strive for. For us together, what we built, we're not building from experience or from another foundation. It's just the foundation that we've created, and the foundation on God. And I feel like just starting from there and going our way up, it's like the biggest legacy that we can leave.
Amen. Wow. Yeah. That was preaching right there. I think I should invite you over to more podcast episodes, because you got a lot of value and wisdom to pass down. And I think you just nailed it on the head right there, regards to being able to build on foundation on God, most importantly, because I've learned from my personal experience, and you as well, that if you don't have God at the center, it's just a lot harder to be able to sustain the life that you want to build. You can self-promote yourself, right? That means you can build for yourself, by yourself, but without God, and you can see success, right? There are many people out there that are far from God who see success, but when you start seeing that success short-lived, or they're not going to be able to leave anything behind, and once that self-promoting just stops, it's much harder for you to hold yourself up when you don't have God, because when God's arm never tires. So once you start building with God, and God is lifting you up little by little, He's going to hold you up, and He's going to keep you up there, because His arm never tires. And that's building off the correct foundation. And that's what kind of changed our lives entirely. I'll say over the last year and a half, right? We've gone through a lot of transitions. We've gone through a lot of tests in our relationship and our careers. And without God, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be where we're at, and it's all glory to Him. And, we've been able to obviously do more and give back and serve and tithe and do all these things that we never used to do before. Right. When we had the money, right? It's all these things. That's where we start realizing that God puts us in positions, and God blesses us to be able to give back to His kingdom, to be able to do those things. And that's honestly the most fulfilling thing, would you say?
I would say 100% because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I would say from the beginning, it's like I had all these things in New York, and it's like I had the finance, I was making the money, I had my own place, I had the relationship, I had all of this, and it was like I still didn't feel fulfilled, you know. And it was like, all right, what is it? And I feel like once turning to God and just surrendering my life and just, you know, letting it be His will, I kind of like let go of all of that and built it back up with Him. And it's like the fruits of it that I've seen and just the fulfillment in it and just the joy in it is just like the biggest difference, I would say.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna ask you one last question. All right, and this is for the next generation. Okay, if you were to tell the next generation, if you were to leave them with one thing on how to manage money, what would that be? I'm putting you on the spot right now.
I feel like I'm still figuring out myself.
I'm putting you on the spot, you know, because I can answer that question, you know, but at the same time, it's also good to know, like, just from your perspective and everything that you've been able to learn. I think it's valuable because it's showing the real life, how we're constantly going through every single day, learning new things. You don't have to have it figured out.
Yeah.
You don't have to go on a podcast because you're already successful.
Yes.
Right? You can just go here and just have a valuable conversation where people can relate and just they see the authentic version of you. So if that's one thing that you will leave the next generation based on your experience and just obviously dealing with somebody as beautiful as myself, I'm sorry guys. I'm very humble, just so you know. I'm just you know, I'm in front of this woman right here, so I just like to just brag a little bit.
Give you the flowers.
Give you the flowers. So what would you say, babe?
For me, wait, you kind of sidetracked me now. All the things you said after. What was the question again?
If there's one thing that you would tell the next generation, if you had the opportunity to speak to the next generation right now, what is it that you will leave them with in regards to managing money?
I would say two things, which is managing the money. First, I would say be willing to take the risk. That's one thing that I feel like helped me back from all these years, is not being willing to take the risk. And I would say the second one would be to let go of being in control of all of it and be, I would say, willing to just lay it down and just, you know, believe in God for it and just having Him provide for it and just be willing to take the risk and willing to lay it down, I would say.
I love that, because lots of people, they put money on a pedestal and they worship money, right? In the Bible it says well, I'm gonna tell you what it doesn't say. It doesn't say money is the root of all evil, right? It's the love for money is the root of all evil, right? So like it's that key word, the love, right? If you are so attached to money and you're worshiping money and you love money, you put it on a pedestal over God, that's when it's considered evil. Yeah. So you know that right there has really changed our perspective on how we're building in our home, and how a lot of other people are starting to realize that, hey, okay, we need to make sure the foundation is set.
Yes.
Right. And yes, there are practical things that someone like myself can help you learn and implement, because that's very, very important. But the most important thing is having that mental, spiritual foundation where you understand, like, hey, listen, I'm ready to build the right way, you know. So this has been a phenomenal conversation. I would say this is the first time we ever record ourselves talking. You know, and like I said, I'm just so honored to have you on my first ever episode. And I know this is going to touch as many lives as God intends it to touch. Yeah. Because, you know, there's lots of people out there who are working in your field, who are Latina from the Bronx, or a woman who is really just so caught up in just what society is telling them on how to operate, but really being able to mature, especially in your faith, has really I've literally witnessed the transformation. So it's really amazing to see how of the type of women that you've become, and that right there is the reason, you know, we're going to get married soon.
That's right.
It's very exciting. So, so yeah, I definitely appreciate you, babe, for getting on here. And one thing I do want to leave you guys with is, you know, the purpose of this particular podcast is to just bring awareness, to bring stories, to talk about finances, talk about money, because everybody at some point is going to either make a money mistake, or they're in transition, or they're trying to better their lives financially. So it's very important to just grasp that it's okay to just seek help and really be able to just lean on somebody. If you don't have it in your inner circle, you can always seek that. And I just want to personally invite you to, you know, to reaching out. If this is something that you are looking to do, if you really if you're ready to just start building off the right foundation, especially in building a relationship, right? That's the most important thing when you deal with finances, is very personal to you. So being able to build with somebody and partner up with somebody who's trustworthy and has your best interests at heart, that is very, very important. So I invite you, if you need help, if you're one of those people, or if you know somebody that's looking to really elevate themselves, you could be already making money, or you could just be starting out. Doesn't matter where you're at. We'll work through everything. We'll go over everything. My team is ready to be able to help and assist you in anything that you may need, right? So feel free to reach out. Subscribe to this new channel here. I created it, and you know, I think it's gonna be able to provide tons of value. Share it to somebody that you love. Our story is amazing, and it's just the beginning of our story. So I appreciate you, babe. I love you.
I love you.
Until next time, okay? Peace out, guys.
Bye.